What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing Mafia Definitive Edition. This is kind of the moment we've all led up to. I don't do a ton of reviews, but I'm very, very excited to talk about this game. I am going to be talking about some spoiler sections of it, so you guys have not yet beaten it or you didn't play it back in 2002. We're going to discuss it, all my strengths, all the weaknesses of this game. Now, really quickly, before I jump in, and instead of promoting one individual thing, I'm going to kind of promote everything. If you guys haven't already subscribed to this channel, we're super close to 40,000. It'd be really, really awesome to hit it this week, early next week. So if you guys haven't subscribed, all of my other stuff is in the description below. And honestly, we're getting close to major milestones for everything. Discord, Twitter followers, as well as my second channel getting up to 2,000. So we're getting very, very close for a lot of different things. If you guys haven't been following me or joining or supporting me in other places, you definitely have the option to do it, again, in the description, as well as just subscribing to this channel. Okay, so let's go into it. This may make people mad. I don't really know generally how people are going to feel about this review, because I do want to point out a lot of the strengths and weaknesses. So let's start with the strengths. And it's going to be weird. We'll talk about why it's going to be weird in just a second. This game does, and I said this on Twitter, this game, what it does well, it does nearly perfect. The story is super good. The characters are super good. The development, the time period, all that kind of stuff is really, really strong. Okay? Are there weaknesses in there if I want to nitpick them? Yes. And if we are maybe doing like a ranking of which game has which part that's better, we could get into that. I would say generally, though, and what's weird to say is, when I played Mafia 2, okay, and I reviewed Mafia 2, I pumped up Mafia 2, and now we've pumped up Mafia 1, right? I didn't play Mafia 1 at the time. So playing Mafia 1, the weakness I would maybe say of its story is it's literally, I would say, beat for beat, the same thing as 2. But here's the weird thing is, although the order that I played it in was 2 then 1, technically I can't and I will not hold it against the original Mafia. In fact, I would say the second one is a little bit less original, especially towards the end with the whole like betrayal and having to take out somebody you've been close to or you've worked with for a long time. I mean, it's literally finding a dead body in their apartment building. A lot of the things happen exactly the same in 2 and 1. Now, again, I played them in that order, but technically 1 came first, so I have to say 2 now, in my opinion, the story beats. Now, again, Vito, the story of 2 is so good, and again, I actually think parts of it are better than 1, but I actually have to say now that I feel like it's a little bit unoriginal compared to 1, so I would say that's very, very strong. And to be honest with you, and I'm going to be flat out honest with you, it's probably the only thing the game does great. Okay, or maybe even good. This game is really, I can see why reviewers didn't give this a 9, didn't say this was the best remake, because it is, and this is probably where we're going to get people that are upset. It's extremely rough around the edges, and I don't say that lightly, because look, I really pride myself on transparency and being honest with you guys and all that stuff. Leading into this game, I think, I don't know who covers Mafia on the internet, but I mean, I was one of the only, I would say. And if you guys have been watching these videos, you'll know that I was very, very excited for this game. I was pumping it up. I could not wait. Okay, this was one of my most anticipated games of the year ever since we heard about it, and it's one of my most anticipated games, from September to November, in which like 30,000 games come out. Okay, so it actually hurts in a way for me to tell you guys that I didn't like a large amount of this game. Now, again, the story, the characters, all this stuff is really good. I love Tommy is phenomenal. Okay, he really is. And while I didn't love the fact that, so they talked about how they were going to put Sarah more in this game to make it more apparent of why he's doing the things he does. Now, I didn't play the original. I did watch the ending of the original to compare it, but let me tell you, it doesn't, they still didn't have her in it enough. The child was only mentioned. In fact, the daughter doesn't even have an actual name on their own official, wiki stuff. There is no name for his daughter. Sarah, I like her. I think she's actually really amazing. I love the relationship, but we saw her 3 times. And that's it for me. When they say that that's the reason why he does these things, it's not enough. And if we are nitpicking the story, one of the weaknesses I would say is, yes, in the beginning, it feels like he's pulled into this family and things are kind of spiraling where he's forced to do it, and then maybe he starts to like it. He likes them, and that's a good development. But after that, a large amount of the story is just you take a job. Every mission is you're just taking a job. You're just a yes man. You do whatever the boss says, and that's it. And yes, he has the moral dilemma of, I don't want to kill innocent people, and that is presented throughout the game. And so, again, strengths, I love that. I love the fact that he's like, I don't want to have to do this to some people. When one of the guys holds up like the waitress in front of him, he will not shoot her. He actually stops Polly from shooting her, right? So, I mean, he's got that moral compass, which is good. And you would imagine that Sarah is pretty much the reason for that, but they don't really show it. So I would call it a weakness. But besides that, again, to nitpick, besides that, it's a phenomenal story. I love the set piece, the time piece of this game. I love where the game goes. The ending. Now, again, if we take this as its own original thing, where in order Mafia 2 didn't happen yet, I mean, the betrayal that happened, with Sam and Polly, I mean, that was insane. Now, I didn't like Polly in the beginning of the game, but I grew to love him, and I think that's actually something that Mafia can do really, really well, is make a really strong supporting cast. The Don, actually both Dons, very, very good. Again, like, the supporting cast of this game is incredible, and so when Polly dies, it's like, holy Jesus. And everything spirals very quickly, very, very quickly, all at the end. And I do absolutely love that. So, again, and when I think of Mafia, that is what I think of. So in a way, they're still playing to their strengths. I'm not saying that I expected some revolutionary experience with this game, and that does go into the negative. So we'll talk about that too, because I want to be fair to this game. I know the game doesn't have the greatest gameplay. I know the game isn't supposed to have an open world that feels super lived in, that you can go around and do. I understand that, but we'll talk about that as we go through. The weaknesses, again, I really think there's a lot. While this game looks absolutely amazing at some times, and honestly, the trailers they showed, some set-piece gameplay moments look really good. Or around the edges, this game looks almost borderline terrible. There are some, and I've seen this actually in a couple of reviews I did watch, that was a complaint where it's like the game is very back and forth. Some of the game looks insane, some of the game, and there is draw distance problems. Maybe that can be somewhat helped with next gen if there's a thing where maybe if you get a free upgrade, which they didn't talk about, if you could play this game on PS5 or Xbox Series X or S, like a free upgrade system, but in terms of just the visuals, like the textures are very, very bad. A lot of them are very bad. A lot of characters are not. When you're in the game, it's very spotty. Very spotty. So to call it a really good remake, even in a visual, but that's tough, because then I'll go watch the 2000 again. Like, I watched part of the 2002 gameplay and then the game. I mean, obviously, look at the steps they took. Like, it's actually insane. And again, mainly in the cutscenes is when you see that shine. Is when you see the characters, when you see the facial animations, all the stuff that is not even in the same league, not even the same planet as the original. So I mean, you have to give them credit there. But if you're judging it for a 2020 game, a 2020 game, I don't know. There's a lot of things that just don't seem finished in this game. Besides that, I get the game's hard, but man, oh man, does the gameplay punish you a lot of times. The game can sometimes just give the enemy, they could say, okay, well, the enemies are just going to be perfect all the time. And then there's smaller things. You don't control the greatest. It's hard to press square, like when you have to hold square to open like a cabinet. And I get it. These are small things, but to be quite honest with you, there are small things that continuously add up, like over and over and over again. A lot of the smaller details in this game, whether it be the gun combat, which is solid, but the thing you have to think about too is the time period. Okay, so the cars are supposed to drive like that. The gun is, and they talk about how they're supposed to have Tommy aim, how he's not a great shot, so obviously he's going to sway a little bit. All that's fine, but it's the other smaller details. I'll give you one right now. When an enemy is behind cover, you know how in some games, in all games, you can get, if you nail that perfect headshot, if their head is just barely, out of that cover, but they're still technically, you would call them in cover, you could still headshot them. Well, in this game, they let you do that. In fact, you'll see the, I don't want to say the word, the red stuff that comes from your body, like you'll see that splat out of them, but they don't actually die. In fact, they pretend like that never happened in the first place. Also, headshots in general are pretty iffy. You can definitely get a headshot and the game will not register it as a headshot. So, again, I get they're all small things, but really, in my opinion, they add up big time when it comes to this game. I had fun overall playing it. There were some really engaging gunfights. And one other positive thing that I do want to highlight is the diversity of the missions. I will 1000% give them that. While they all start exactly the same, you're at the warehouse, you get the rundown, you have to go somewhere to then maybe go somewhere else. While it's generally that same kind of approach, at least how you start it, it's always the same. Every mission's different. I mean, you're on a boat, you're catching a plane, there's all these different gunfights in vastly different areas. I love that. So, I mean, every mission truly feels unique. It really, really does. You go to an airport, there's a lot of really different things here, and honestly, I think a lot of games can learn from that because honestly, it surprised me how different each mission was from each other, so I gotta give it that. So, again, this is a mixed bag. It truly is a mixed bag. Here's what I'll say to conclude this, to finish this off. Again, you guys know me. You guys know how excited I was going in. Was it the game that I wanted? I think overall, it was probably the game I wanted, but it did let me down a lot, more than I actually thought it would. And maybe that's a disappointing thing. I mean, it kind of is disappointing to me. Again, the story, the character, I knew to expect that stuff. It was really... That's the problem, is for this game, going into Mafia 2, you guys told me Mafia 2's story is really, really good. It's such a good game. I'm so glad it's getting, and these are what people are telling me. They're so glad it's getting remastered, and I jump in, and the story and the characters and the time period were incredible. Honestly, incredible. Now, again, does it diminish it a little bit knowing that it's basically a repeat? Yeah, a little bit. But, I mean, you still can't take that away. Performances, all that stuff, super good. But, like I said in that review, it was a terrible remaster. It doesn't look good. It plays still pretty poorly, right? Everything's kind of bad about it. So, again, you have the strengths of Mafia, and then you have every weakness. And so, for this remake, my whole thing going into it was, well, it needs to be a good Mafia game, but it also needs to be a good game in general. And I think this was a good enough game. I think this is a game that hopefully enough people get so that we do get a Mafia 4, because, by the way, I absolutely want more Mafia. In fact, this game, I'm going to go back and play Mafia 3 like tonight or tomorrow. I'm actually going to go through that. I can even make some videos on it if you guys... It will be a little bit different, but I do want to do that. It does actually make me want to play more Mafia games, which is odd because I felt like the game was very unfair in the gameplay aspect for multiple sections of it, okay? So, I mean, I still think it did its job. I still think it's a good game that hopefully will give us more Mafia games. It's just that it still very much struggles to get out of its, basically get out of its own way. Like, I know what it's trying to do. It tries to do it. It does it really well. But what it doesn't really try to do elite-wise, it does very badly. And that is honestly very disappointing. I would not at all. And again, like, I was super excited for this remake. I would not say this is top-tier remake stuff. Now, again, I get it. It's definitely a massive improvement from, 2002, but a thing a remake needs to do as well is really make you, as close as it can, make you feel like you're in the current year playing that game. And so, yeah, I get it, not wanting to mess with the current game all that much, but the game... Like, there's still a lot of gameplay things that are broken or that are just flat out not good. Those things you can change. I mean, it's okay to change those things. If there's something special about it, maybe if it's like an okay feature about the original, maybe you keep that. But if it's flat out bad, you don't keep that. You try to improve it. I just don't think they hit the spot. So this was it was a good game. It was a solid game, but it was not the best remake I've ever played. It is not my game of the year. It's the story and characters are incredible, and that could win awards, I think, easily, but it's definitely not the best remake or game that I've played in 2020. So that kind of sucks to say, and honestly, because I was hoping that I could say something different about this game. But guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Did you play Mafia Definitive Edition? Did you play the original? What do you think? How do they compare? Let me know. Again, like I said, all the stuff, subscribing, following, joining, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys are doing that. I do want to have more videos Mafia related. I do want to play Mafia 3 and talk about that maybe, 5 years later, a kind of video like that. I think that would actually be kind of fun to do. So look for more Mafia videos coming very, very soon. Thank you guys, honestly, for all the support. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.